You're watching a movie, minding your own business, and the craving hits. That irresistible urge for something sweet, something sugary. It's a feeling we all know, a familiar comfort. We've been told it's a simple case of a sweet tooth, a harmless little indulgence. But what if I told you that simple craving is a complex chemical command, a signal being sent from the deepest, most primitive parts of your brain? What if your favorite sugary treat isn't just a snack, but a powerful substance that can fundamentally alter your thoughts, your mood, and even your memory? This isn't about guilt or diets. This is about understanding. Because the story of sugar and your brain is a tale of a brilliant evolutionary trick that's gone terribly, terribly wrong. We're going to peel back the layers and expose the shocking reality of how sugar affects the brain, from the immediate sugar rush to the long-term changes that can impact everything you are. Get ready to have your mind blown, and maybe your next soda put down. For decades, the idea of a sugar rush was a common myth, especially when talking about kids. You give a child a candy bar, and they're suddenly bouncing off the walls, right? But the reality is far more complex and frankly more insidious. The real rush isn't an energy boost. It's a dopamine flood. Think of dopamine as your brain's personal like button. When you do something your brain deems beneficial for survival, like finding food, or in our prehistoric ancestors' case, a rare source of high-calorie sweetness, it hits that button, releasing a wave of feel-good chemicals that reinforce the behavior. That's why that first sip of soda or bite of a donut feels so good. It's a direct hit to your brain's reward center, the nucleus accumbens. But here's the thing, our modern world is overflowing with sugar. The average American consumes a staggering 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day. That's more than double the recommended daily amount for men, and nearly triple for women. This constant, overwhelming stimulation of the dopamine system is where the trouble begins. Your brain, in its effort to maintain balance, starts to downregulate its dopamine receptors. It's like turning down the volume on a speaker that's always blaring. The more sugar you consume, the more receptors are reduced and the more you need to get the same pleasurable feeling. This isn't just a habit. It's a neurochemical adaptation that bears a striking resemblance to drug addiction. And the cycle continues, with each sugary snack making the next craving stronger. Have you ever wondered why you can't just have one cookie? Now you know. The sugar itself is training your brain to crave more. But what happens when the pleasure wears off and the sugar high crashes? Beyond the initial rush, sugar has a profound and often overlooked impact on your cognitive function, especially when it comes to memory and learning. It's not just a feeling of being in a fog after a big sugary meal. It's a real measurable phenomenon. Your brain runs on glucose, but an excess of it can actually be a bad thing. Think of it like a car engine. It needs gas to run, but if you flood it, the engine sputters and stalls. When you consume too much sugar, it can lead to chronic inflammation in the brain, particularly in a region called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the grand central station of your memory. It's responsible for converting short-term memories into long-term ones. When this area is inflamed, its ability to function is severely compromised. Studies, including a landmark UCLA study on rats, have shown that a high-sugar diet literally damages the synapses, the connections between brain cells, in this crucial region. The same study found that this damage was so significant that it impaired the rats' ability to navigate mazes and remember things they had learned. The scary part, this wasn't a temporary effect. The cognitive deficits lingered long after the sugar was removed. It's not just about forgetting where you put your keys. It's about a long-term decline in your brain's ability to create and recall information. So the next time you're about to grab a sugary drink to help you focus, remember, you might be doing the exact opposite. But the story doesn't end with memory. What about your mood? We often reach for a candy bar or a pint of ice cream when we're feeling down. It's the ultimate comfort food, a quick fix for a bad day. The immediate dopamine hit gives you that temporary boost, that fleeting sense of happiness. But what we often don't consider is the cruel sugar crash that follows. This rapid rise and fall in blood sugar levels can wreak havoc on your emotions. One moment you're soaring, the next you're irritable, anxious, and even more depressed than you were before. But it's not just the roller coaster of blood sugar. Over time, a high-sugar diet has been scientifically linked to an increased risk of developing depression and anxiety. How? The answer lies in a tiny little molecule called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as a kind of fertilizer for your brain cells. It's crucial for the growth of new neurons, the health of existing ones, and for warding off depression. When you eat too much sugar, it significantly reduces the production of BDNF. This lack of brain fertilizer can make you more vulnerable to mood disorders and make it harder to cope with stress. It creates a vicious cycle. You feel sad, you eat sugar for comfort. The sugar reduces your brain's ability to cope, and you feel even sadder. It's a quiet, insidious form of self-sabotage. But if it's so bad for us, why is it in everything we eat? The answer, as always, lies in history. The story of how sugar became a dietary staple in the US is a fascinating and somewhat grim tale. For centuries, sugar was a luxury item, a rare and expensive spice reserved for the wealthy. But with the rise of industrialization and the mass production of sugarcane, it became cheap and plentiful. By the 19th and early 20th centuries, sugar was no longer just a dessert topping. It was an essential ingredient in food preservation and eventually a cheap filler. As food manufacturers learned how to mass-produce products and realized the incredible addictive power of sugar, they started putting it in everything. Consider the soft drink. In the early 20th century, Prohibition actually drove up the demand for sweet, non-alcoholic beverages, and even after Prohibition ended, the American public had acquired a new, insatiable thirst for sugary sodas. The advent of high-fructose corn syrup in the 1970s made things even worse. It was cheaper than sugar, easier to transport, and had an even more potent effect on the reward system. Today, more than 70% of packaged foods in the average American grocery store contain added sugar, often in forms we don't even recognize, like dextrose, maltose, or corn sweetener. We are literally drowning in sugar. It's in our ketchup, our salad dressings, and even our bread. The battle for your brain's health isn't just on your dessert plate. It's in nearly every aisle of the supermarket. So what's the long-term cost of this sweet, sweet addiction? The long-term effects of a high-sugar diet on the brain are even more concerning. This isn't just about feeling a little foggy or moody. Chronic high-sugar consumption can lead to serious, irreversible damage. One of the most terrifying connections is the link between excessive sugar intake and an increased risk for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Scientists are now referring to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. Here's the breakdown. A high-sugar diet can lead to insulin resistance, a condition where your body's cells stop responding properly to the hormone insulin. When this happens, your brain, which uses insulin to regulate nerve cell function, can't process glucose effectively. This lack of fuel can lead to a form of brain starvation, even in a body with plenty of sugar. Over time, this chronic glucose dysregulation, coupled with the inflammation we discussed, can contribute to the formation of amyloid plaques and tangles, the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. This is where the story gets really dramatic. It's not just a bad diet. It's a ticking time bomb for your brain health. The very thing that gives us a temporary feeling of pleasure might be slowly and silently stealing our future memories. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not about cutting out every last speck of sugar. It's about a fundamental shift in our relationship with it. The good news is, your brain is an incredibly resilient organ. It has an amazing ability to heal and rewire itself. It's called neuroplasticity. The same reward pathways that were co-opted by sugar can be retrained. By reducing your sugar intake, you allow your dopamine receptors to reset, making you more sensitive to natural pleasures. The simple joy of a piece of fruit, the satisfying feeling of a healthy meal, or the reward from a good workout can start to feel more powerful than a sugary snack. This is the path to freedom, not just from the cravings, but from the emotional and cognitive roller coaster that comes with them. It's about making conscious choices, like reaching for a handful of nuts instead of a donut, or choosing water over soda. These small, deliberate actions send a powerful message to your brain. We don't need the artificial high to feel good. We can find pleasure in what truly nourishes us. So the next time you feel that intense urge for a sugary treat, stop and ask yourself, is this what my brain really wants, or is it what my brain has been trained to crave? The answer might surprise you. If you're ready to dive deeper into the fascinating world of human biology and uncover more incredible facts, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got a whole universe of curiosity waiting for you. And tell us in the comments below, what was the most shocking or interesting fact you learned about sugar's effect on your brain? We've learned that the sugar rush isn't about energy, but a dopamine flood that can lead to addiction-like behaviors. We've seen how sugar can inflame the hippocampus, damaging your ability to learn and remember. We've unmasked the link between sugar and mood disorders, revealing its role in reducing your brain's natural resilience. And perhaps most importantly, we've seen how our modern, sugar-saturated world is setting us up for long-term cognitive decline. But you now have the knowledge to take back control. The power is in your hands, or rather, in the choices you make every day. So what will you choose for your brain's future?